The year was 2187, and Earth stood on the precipice of annihilation. The once blue planet now cast a muted gray pallor, its atmosphere thick with the remnants of a century-long war against the Xenotech Alliance. Captain Lam Min Fong gazed at the holographic projection of their homeworld from the observation deck of Helios, the underground city nestled beneath the Himalayan mountain range. The last stronghold of humanity pulsed with nervous energy as citizens went about their daily routines, most unaware of the imminent threat that loomed above their reinforced ceilings. "Captain, you're needed in command." The communication unit on his wrist crackled. The voice belonged to Major Nu, his second-in-command and the Phoenix unit's AI specialist. Her usually steady tone carried an edge that made Fong's pulse quicken. "On my way," he replied, casting one final glance at the projection before striding toward the central elevator. The command center buzzed with frantic activity as Fong entered. Technicians hunched over consoles, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of screens displaying various sectors of Earth's remaining defense systems. At the center of the room stood General Tran, his weathered face grave as he manipulated a three-dimensional tactical display. "Captain Fong," the general acknowledged without looking up. "Our orbital observation station has detected something troubling." Major Nu stepped forward, her dark eyes meeting Fong's. "We've intercepted a communication from the Xenotech mothership. They've initiated something called Zero-Hour Protocol." The general expanded a section of the display, revealing a countdown sequence. "According to our analysis, this is a pre-programmed extinction-level event. Once activated, it will trigger a cascade of destruction across what remains of our civilization." Fong studied the countdown, 72 hours remaining. "What exactly happens at 0 hour?" he asked, already suspecting the answer. Dr. Elena Voss, the team's biomedical specialist, stepped into the light. Her fair skin appeared almost translucent under the harsh illumination of the command center. "Based on the fragmented data we've gathered, it appears to be a multi-phase attack. Biological agents released into our water supply, followed by targeted electromagnetic pulses to disable our defensive systems, and finally, kinetic bombardment from orbit. The end of humanity," the general stated flatly. "Unless we stop it." Fong squared his shoulders. "What's the mission, sir?" "You need to infiltrate the Dante station in low Earth orbit. That's where the command protocol is being channeled through. Disable it before the countdown reaches 0. "Dante? That's been under Xenotech control for over a year," Fong objected. "It's heavily fortified." "Which is why we're sending in Phoenix," the general replied. "Your team is the only one with the skills to get this done. You leave in 6 hours." As Fong left the briefing, Major Nu fell into step beside him. "I've already started compiling intel on Dante's current defenses," she said. "They've upgraded significantly since our last reconnaissance. Get Lieutenant Koa on it too," Fong ordered. "If anyone can find us a way in undetected, it's Ghost." Nu nodded, then hesitated. "Min," she said, using his first name as she only did in private. "Do you think we have a chance?" Fong paused, considering the weight of the question and the lives that hung in the balance. "We have to," he finally answered, "because no one else does." 6 hours later, in the loading bay of Helios, Phoenix unit prepared for departure. The team consisted of 5 members, each the best in their field. Captain Lam Min Fong, Tactical Commander; Major Nu, AI and System Specialist; Lieutenant Koa, Ghost; Stealth and Marksman; Sergeant Tranduk, Heavy Weapons Expert; and Dr. Elena Voss, their biomedical specialist. They boarded the Firebird, a stealth transport retrofitted with salvaged Xenotech components. As the vehicle hummed to life, Fong addressed his team. "The mission is straightforward, but nearly impossible. We breach Dante, locate the 0 hour protocol's core processor, and shut it down. The station is controlled by AI Guardians, and likely has Xenotech elite forces on board. We'll be outgunned and outnumbered. Just another day at the office, Ghost remarked with a thin smile, checking his adaptive camouflage suit. Dr. Voss has prepared biological countermeasures in case we encounter the agents they plan to deploy. Fong continued. Major Nu will handle the AI defenses. Sergeant Duke will ensure our exit strategy remains viable. Dr. Voss distributed small, glowing blue vials to each team member. Inject this if your biosensors detect contamination. It's a universal nanite countermeasure, but it will only buy you hours, not days. The Firebird lifted off, ascending through a hidden shaft in the mountain. Once clear of the Himalayan range, the craft engaged its stealth systems and accelerated toward the stratosphere. Entering Xenotech-controlled airspace in 3 minutes, Nu announced from the co-pilot's seat. Their patrol routes have changed. Adjusting course? The craft shuddered as they navigated through bands of electromagnetic interference, a defensive measure established by the Xenotech to disrupt human communications and navigation. Energy signature detected at 2 o'clock, Ghost warned, his eyes fixed on the scanner. Looks like a scout vessel. Evasive maneuvers, Fong ordered calmly. The Firebird dipped sharply, skirting beneath the patrol craft. For a tense moment, the scanner showed the scout hovering nearby, as if sensing their presence. Then it moved on, continuing its predetermined route. Collective exhales filled the cabin. That was too close, Duck muttered. His massive frame hunched uncomfortably in the confined space. The journey to Dante took 4 grueling hours, navigating through Xenotech defense grids and avoiding orbital debris from previous battles. Finally, the station came into view, a massive, wheel-shaped structure with spikes protruding from its circumference like a grotesque crown. Those weren't there before, Nu observed, pointing to the spikes. Sensor readings suggest they're energy projectors of some kind. Can we dock undetected? Fong asked. Nu's fingers flew over her console. There's a maintenance port on the underside that still accepts human authorization codes. It hasn't been used since the takeover, so it might not be monitored closely. Ghost, you're on point once we're inside, Fong said. Find us a clear path to the central hub. The Firebird approached cautiously, eventually aligning with the maintenance port. With a soft metallic clang, they docked. The team donned their exosuits, combat-ready armor, enhanced with limited life support for space operations. Oxygen levels nominal. Gravity in the station is active but reduced to 60% Earth normal, Dr. Voss reported as she checked the environmental readings. Atmosphere is breathable, but I recommend keeping helmets sealed until we confirm no biological agents are present. The airlock cycled, and Phoenix entered Dante. The corridors were dimly lit with an eerie blue glow emanating from strip lighting along the floors. The air was still, with the only sound being the distant hum of machinery. Ghost activated his adaptive camouflage, nearly vanishing from sight as the suit mimicked the surroundings. I'll scout ahead, his disembodied voice announced. Keep comms to minimum frequency. Fong nodded, and the team waited in tense silence as Ghost moved forward. After several minutes, his voice returned over the comm. Main corridor clear for now, but I've detected automated sentinel units patrolling the intersections. They're using a predictable pattern. We can time our movements between their sweeps. The team advanced cautiously, pressing themselves against walls whenever Ghost signaled an approaching patrol. The sentinels were hovering, spherical robots with multiple sensor arrays and what appeared to be energy weapons mounted on their undersides. They had made it halfway to the central hub when the first complication arose. A massive security door blocked their path, its surface glowing with cryptic Xenotech symbols. Can you crack it? Fong asked Nu. She approached the panel, connecting her specialized decryption device. It's using quantum encryption, more advanced than anything we've encountered before. Her brow furrowed in concentration. This could take time we don't have. How much time? Fong pressed. 20 minutes, minimum. Fong checked the mission clock on his HUD. They had already spent 40 minutes inside the station. Every moment increased their risk of detection. Do it, he decided. Duck, Ghost. Establish a perimeter. Dr. Voss, monitor the environmental sensors. I want to know immediately if anything changes. As Nu worked on the door, Fong took a moment to study their surroundings more carefully. The station had changed significantly since humans had operated it. Organic-looking growths had merged with the metal structure in places, creating an unsettling hybrid of technology and alien biology. I've never seen this level of integration before, Dr. Voss whispered, scanning one of the growths with her medical analyzer. It's as if the station itself is becoming a living organism. Can it detect us? Fong asked. Possibly. These structures contain neural-like pathways. They could be an extension of the station's sensory system. Fong's unease grew. Nu, status? Almost there, she replied, her fingers never pausing in their dance across the decryption device. The encryption keeps adapting, but She stopped abruptly as the door suddenly slid open. That wasn't me, she admitted, alarmed. The team raised their weapons, ready for an ambush, but the corridor beyond was empty. It's inviting us in, Ghost observed grimly. Or it's a trap, Duck countered. Fong considered their options. We proceed as planned, but with extreme caution. Ghost, take point again. They moved through the door into a wider corridor that curved with the station's wheel-like shape. The organic growths were more prevalent here, pulsing with an internal light that seemed to follow their movements. Central Hub is 2 sections ahead, Nu reported, consulting the station schematic on her wrist display. But these readings don't make sense. The energy signatures are all wrong. Before Fong could ask for clarification, a piercing alarm shattered the silence. Red emergency lights began to strobe along the corridors. We've been made, Duck shouted, bringing his heavy pulse rifle to bear. No, Nu countered, eyes wide as she read her display. It's not us. The 0-hour protocol just accelerated. We now have less than 24 hours. Fong's mind raced. They must have detected our approach somehow. Move! We need to reach that hub. The team broke into a run, abandoning stealth for speed. As they rounded a bend in the corridor, they encountered their first resistance, 3 Sentinel units blocking their path. Down! Fong commanded, as the Sentinels opened fire with energy weapons that left scorching trails in the air. Duke rolled to one knee and returned fire with his pulse rifle. The heavy weapon's discharge sent a shockwave through the reduced gravity environment, pushing him backward even as his shots connected with one of the Sentinels, causing it to explode in a shower of sparks. Ghost had vanished entirely, but the effects of his presence became apparent when a second Sentinel suddenly jerked and spun, as if attacked from behind. Its sensors exploded outward, and it dropped to the floor, disabled. The final Sentinel focused its weapons on Nu, who had exposed herself while attempting to hack into its systems. A blast of energy caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around. Nu! Fong shouted, diving forward and emptying his sidearm into the Sentinel. The combined fire from him and Duck finally destroyed the machine. Dr. Voss was instantly at Nu's side, medical scanner in hand. The suit absorbed most of the impact, but she has second-degree burns and possible nerve damage. Nu grimaced, pushing herself up with her good arm. I'm fine. We need to keep moving. Can you still hack the main system? Fong asked, concern evident in his voice. Yes, she assured him, though her face was pale with pain. Just get me to that hub. They continued forward, more cautiously now. Ghost reappeared beside them, his camouflage deactivating. There's a larger concentration of Sentinels ahead, guarding the hub entrance. At least 8 that I could see. Fong nodded, formulating a plan. We need a diversion. Duck, set explosive charges at junction points on either side of the hub entrance. We'll trigger them remotely to draw some of the Sentinels away. On it, Captain, Duke acknowledged, retrieving compact charges from his equipment pack. While Duke planted the explosives, Fong turned to Dr. Voss. Any sign of the biological agents they're planning to deploy? She shook her head. Nothing yet. But my scanner's range is limited. They could be stored in containment units I can't detect from here. Ghost suddenly stiffened, his head tilting as if listening. Something's coming. Not sentinels. Something bigger. The floor beneath them vibrated, the intensity increasing with each second. Then, from around the far curve of the corridor, a massive mechanical construct appeared. It resembled a centipede, with dozens of articulated legs and a cylindrical body studded with weapons. Combat crawler, Nu identified, her voice tight. Xenotech Heavy Assault Unit. Fall back to the junction, Fong ordered. The team retreated as the crawler charged forward, moving with surprising speed despite its size. Energy weapons mounted along its segmented body began firing, forcing them to dodge and weave. At the junction, Duke had positioned himself with a clear line of fire. "Get clear!" he shouted, as he braced his heavy weapon against his shoulder. The team flattened themselves against the walls as Duke fired a concentrated energy pulse at the crawler. The blast connected with the machine's front section, causing it to rear up like a wounded animal. But the damage was superficial, and the crawler quickly resumed its advance. "The charges, duck!" Fong reminded him. Duke triggered the explosive devices he had planted earlier. Twin explosions rocked the station, creating breaches in the corridors on either side of their position. Alarms blared with renewed intensity as emergency containment fields activated to prevent atmospheric loss. The diversion worked, partially. Half of the sentinels guarding the hub entrance moved to investigate the explosions, but the crawler remained focused on Phoenix. New plan, Fong decided quickly. Ghost, Duck, keep that thing occupied. Nu, Dr. Voss, with me. We're making a run for the hub while the sentinels are distracted. Ghost nodded, his form already beginning to blur as his camouflage reactivated. Duke readied another charge, a determined expression settling on his broad features. Go! Fong ordered, and the three of them sprinted toward the hub entrance, while Ghost and Duke engaged the crawler. They encountered two sentinels en route, but Fong dispatched them with precise shots from his sidearm. The hub entrance loomed before them, a massive circular door emblazoned with Xenotech symbols that pulsed with internal light. Can you get us in? Fong asked Nu, who was already connecting her decryption device to the access panel. This one's different, she muttered, fingers flying across the interface. It's not just encrypted, it's thinking, adapting to my attempts almost instantly. Dr. Voss suddenly gasped, her medical scanner emitting a shrill warning tone. Biological contamination detected. The area around the door is saturated with microscopic agents. The countermeasure, Fong urged, reaching for the blue vial Dr. Voss had provided earlier. Wait, she cautioned, studying her scanner more closely. These aren't Xenotech agents. They're human-engineered. Fong froze, the implications dawning on him. There's a spy in Helios, he realized aloud. Someone who knew our mission parameters. Nu looked up sharply from her work. That would explain how they knew to accelerate the protocol. The distant sounds of combat, Duke's weapon discharge, and the metallic screeching of the crawler provided an urgent backdrop to their discovery. Focus on the door, Fong instructed Nu. Dr. Voss, can you neutralize these agents? She was already adjusting her medical equipment. I can try to create a localized counteragent, but it will take time. Time we don't have, Fong noted grimly, checking the mission clock. The protocol countdown now showed less than 23 hours. Nu suddenly let out a triumphant sound. I'm in! The door's unlocking! As the massive portal began to slide open, the organic growths around it pulsed rapidly, as if in alarm. The air that rushed out carried a metallic tang that made their eyes water, even through their helmet filters. Masks sealed, Fong ordered, as they stepped through the doorway into the central hub of Dante. The hub was a vast, dome-shaped chamber, dominated by a central pillar of light that stretched from floor to ceiling. Around this pillar, holographic displays hovered in midair, showing various Earth locations targeted for destruction. The organic growths they had observed in the corridors were even more prevalent here, forming a web-like network across the walls and ceiling. The protocol core must be within that light pillar. Nu determined, scanning the room with her instruments. It's generating a quantum field that's maintaining the countdown. Before they could approach, however, a voice echoed through the chamber, smooth, cultured, and utterly inhuman. Phoenix Unit, how predictably valiant of humanity to send its best to die. A figure emerged from behind the pillar of light, tall and slender, with skin the color of burnished copper and eyes that glowed with an internal blue fire. The being known as Orion, the cold engineer and supreme commander of the Xenotech Alliance, regarded them with detached curiosity. "I calculated a 12% probability of your arrival," Orion continued, his voice modulating in perfect human speech despite his alien physiology. "An acceptable margin of uncertainty." Fong raised his weapon. "Deactivate the protocol." Orion's expression remained impassive. "The protocol is necessary. Your species has demonstrated a remarkable capacity for self-destruction. We are merely accelerating the inevitable." "That's not your decision to make," Fong countered. "Isn't it?" Orion tilted his head slightly. "Your kind created weapons capable of destroying your own world long before we arrived. You poisoned your oceans, ravaged your atmosphere, eradicated countless species. We are not your executioners, Captain Fong. We are your logical conclusion." Dr. Voss stepped forward, her medical scanner still active. "You're wrong. Humanity has made mistakes. Yes, but we've also created art, music, literature. We've explored the stars not just for conquest but for knowledge." "Irrelevant sentimentality," Orion dismissed. "The universe requires balance. Your species disrupts that balance." While they kept Orion engaged, Nu had been subtly working with her decryption device, attempting to interface with the protocol core. "The field around the pillar is weakening on the east side," she whispered to Fong through their private comm channel. "If I can get closer, I might be able to insert a shutdown sequence." Fong gave an imperceptible nod, then raised his voice to maintain Orion's attention. "If balance is what you seek, why not help us restore it? Work with humanity instead of destroying it." Orion's glowing eyes narrowed. "Collaboration was attempted. Your leaders responded with nuclear weapons. The time for discourse has passed." As he spoke, several panels in the hub floor slid open, and sentinel units began to rise into the chamber. "Now!" Fong commanded, and both he and Dr. Voss opened fire on the sentinels nearest to Orion, creating a momentary distraction. Nu sprinted toward the pillar of light, her decryption device extended before her like a shield. The moment she penetrated the quantum field, alarms blared throughout the hub, and the countdown on the holographic displays began to accelerate rapidly. "Foolish," Orion remarked, unperturbed. "The protocol now recognizes an active threat. 0 hour has been moved forward to 60 seconds from now." Fong felt a chill run down his spine as he watched the numbers on the display counting down with merciless precision. Nu was frantically working at the base of the light pillar, her face set in desperate concentration. "I need more time," she shouted over the alarms. "The encryption is multi-layered." Dr. Voss was engaged with 2 sentinels, using her medical equipment in ways it was never designed for, emitting focused electromagnetic pulses that temporarily disabled the machines. Fong made a decision. "Keep working," he told Nu, then turned to face Orion directly. "Your protocol has a manual override. Every system does." Orion's expression remained unchanged, but a subtle tension entered his posture. "You cannot possibly understand the complexities of Xenotech systems." "But I understand strategy," Fong replied, edging closer to the alien commander. And I understand that you wouldn't be here personally, unless there was something critical at stake. Something only you can control. For the first time, a flicker of what might have been uncertainty crossed Orion's features. The countdown reached 30 seconds. In a sudden, fluid motion, Fong lunged forward, tackling Orion to the ground. The alien was stronger than he appeared, his slender limbs possessing a whip-like strength that nearly broke Fong's grip. But Fong had trained for close-quarters combat his entire career. And even against a physically superior opponent, technique could prevail. He managed to pin Orion, pressing his sidearm against the alien's temple. "The override," he demanded. "Now." 20 seconds. Orion's eyes flared brighter. "Kill me if you wish, Captain. The protocol will still execute." "Fong!" Nu called out. "I've breached the first layer, but there's a biometric lock on the final sequence." 15 seconds. Dr. Voss had disabled the sentinels and rushed to Nu's side. "It must be keyed to xenotech physiology," she realized, scanning the interface. "We need Orion." 10 seconds. Fong dragged the alien commander toward the pillar, maintaining his gun at Orion's head. "Deactivate it or die with us," he growled. "My death is irrelevant," Orion replied calmly. "The continuity of universal balance is all that matters." 5 seconds. Nu looked up, desperation clear in her eyes. "It needs a direct neural interface. Their technology is partially organic. It needs to recognize him as the source of the command." 3 seconds. In that moment, Fong made a decision that would alter the course of human history. He reached up and detached his HUD module, the neural interface that connected his own brain to his combat systems. With a swift, violent motion, he jammed it against Orion's forehead, where the alien's neural receptors were located. 2 seconds. Pain exploded behind Fong's eyes as his neural network made contact with alien consciousness through the HUD. Visions flooded his mind, stars being born and dying, civilizations rising and falling across countless worlds. The cold, mathematical precision of xenotech logic assessing and judging each one. 1 second. With the last of his strength, Fong forced a single command through the neural connection. Abort. 0. The world went white, then black. When Fong regained consciousness, the first thing he became aware of was pain, a throbbing, all-encompassing agony that seemed to radiate from his very bones. The second was the sound of breathing beside him. "He's awake," Dr. Voss's voice announced quietly. Fong forced his eyes open to find himself in the medical bay of the Firebird. The ship was in motion. He could feel the subtle vibration of the engines through the examination table. "Did we?" His voice emerged as a harsh croak. "We did," Nu confirmed, moving into his field of vision. Her arm was in a sling, her face pale but triumphant. The protocol was terminated with less than a second remaining. Dante Station lost all power immediately afterward, Orion with it. "Ghost? Duck?" Fong managed to ask. A shadow crossed Nu's face. "Duck. Didn't make it. The crawler was too much, even for him. He bought us the time we needed. Though, Ghost is piloting us home." Fong closed his eyes, absorbing the loss of his teammate and friend. Another name to add to the too long list of those who had sacrificed everything for humanity's survival. The spy, he remembered suddenly. In Helios. "We'll deal with that when we get back," Dr. Voss assured him, administering something to his IV line that eased the worst of his pain. "For now, you need to rest. Your neural pathways suffered severe trauma from the connection with Orion." "What did you see?" Nu asked quietly, leaning closer. "When you connected with him?" Fong was silent for a long moment, trying to organize the chaotic impressions that had seared themselves into his consciousness. "Their perspective," he finally said. "They see time differently. Civilizations are like individual cells to them. They believe they're maintaining the health of the larger organism by eliminating what they see as diseased cells. Cosmic antibodies, Dr. Voss murmured. But you changed Orion's mind somehow, Nu pressed. The protocol aborted. Fong shook his head slightly, then winced at the pain the movement caused. I didn't change his mind. I showed him ours. All of it, our hopes, our fears, our capacity for both destruction and creation. He paused, remembering the moment of connection. I think he hesitated. Just for an instant. It was enough. The journey back to Helios took 3 hours. By the time they arrived, word of their mission's success had spread throughout the underground city. Despite the security protocols, someone had leaked the information, and crowds had gathered in the main concourse to welcome home the heroes who had saved humanity. But Phoenix's return was somber. They carried Duke's body with them, and the weight of his sacrifice tempered their victory celebration. Fong, still weak from his neural trauma, insisted on walking off the Firebird under his own power, supported by Nu on one side and Ghost on the other. General Tran met them at the landing bay, his weathered face showing relief for perhaps the first time in years. You've done the impossible, he said simply. Humanity owes you a debt that can never be repaid. Duke paid it for all of us, Fong replied. The general nodded gravely. His name will be remembered among our greatest heroes. In the days that followed, as Fong recovered in the medical center of Helios, the investigation into the spy progressed rapidly. Major Nu led the effort, applying her technical expertise to trace the unauthorized communications that had warned the Xenotech Alliance of Phoenix's approach. She visited Fong daily, keeping him updated on their findings. On the 5th day, she arrived with a grim expression that told him the spy had been identified. Who? He asked, sitting up in his hospital bed. Nu hesitated, then sighed heavily. Dr. Elena Voss. Fong stared at her in disbelief. That's impossible. She was with us on the mission. She risked her life. She never intended the mission to fail completely, Nu explained, sitting on the edge of his bed. Just to be delayed long enough for the protocol to execute. The biological agents at the hub entrance were designed to slow us down, not kill us. But why? Fong demanded, struggling to reconcile this betrayal with the woman who had fought alongside them. She believed humanity was too damaged to continue, Nu said quietly. That our species had proven itself unworthy of survival. She lost her entire family in the Australian firestorms 15 years ago and never really recovered. Fong remembered Dr. Voss's passion when defending humanity to Orion. Had that all been an act? Or had she been trying to convince herself as much as the alien? Where is she now? In custody, Nu replied. She's cooperating fully. It seems your connection with Orion affected her as well. Something changed in those final moments. Over the next several weeks, as Earth began the long process of rebuilding, Fong slowly regained his strength. The neural damage from his connection with Orion had left lasting effects, occasional migraines, flashes of alien memories that weren't his own, and a strange new perspective on humanity's place in the universe. Ghost visited him often, unusually talkative for the normally silent sniper. He spoke of his plans to help establish a new security protocol for Helios, one that would prevent future infiltrations like Dr. Voss's. We got lucky this time, Ghost remarked during one such visit. Next time, we might not have a captain willing to fry his brain to save the world. Fong smiled wryly. There won't be a next time if we do this right. 1 month after the mission to Dante, Fong was finally cleared to return to active duty. His first act was to visit the memorial wall, where Sergeant Tranduke's name had been added among the honored dead. He stood there in silence, remembering the big man's courage and unwavering loyalty. He would be proud, Nu said, appearing beside him, of what we've accomplished since then. And they had accomplished much. The defeat of the 0-hour protocol had done more than save humanity. It had provided them with valuable xenotech data, retrieved from Dante before its systems failed. Scientists were already developing new defensive capabilities based on this information, and for the first time in decades, humanity was no longer merely surviving. It was beginning to push back. "Any word from our orbital scouts?" Fong asked, as they walked away from the memorial wall. "The Xenotech fleet has retreated to the outer system," Nu reported. "They seem to be reassessing." "They're not used to failure," Fong noted, "or to having their worldview challenged." They reached a viewing platform that overlooked the vast underground farms that provided Helios with food. The artificial sunlight bathed the crops in a golden glow that almost resembled a real sunrise. "General Tran has approved the Phoenix Initiative," Nu told him. "We're recruiting new teams, based on our model. Training begins next month." Fong nodded, satisfaction warming him despite the lingering pain in his head. "And Dr. Voss?" Nu's expression softened slightly. "Her trial concluded yesterday, given her cooperation and her actions during the mission, which ultimately helped save humanity, despite her original intentions. She's been sentenced to work in the research division under supervision. Her expertise is too valuable to waste." They stood in companionable silence for a time, watching the activity below. Then Nu spoke again, her voice thoughtful. "Do you ever wonder if Orion survived? If he's out there somewhere, with your memories inside him?" Fong had wondered that, many times. In his dreams, he sometimes caught glimpses of stars from perspectives he had never experienced, felt the cold precision of alien thought patterns intertwined with human emotion. "If he is," Fong replied, "then he knows us now, really knows us. And that might be the most powerful weapon we have." 3 months after the Dante mission, humanity celebrated its first real victory against the Xenotech Alliance. A combined force of Phoenix teams had successfully reclaimed an orbital platform that had been under alien control for over 2 years. The momentum was shifting, slowly but perceptibly. On that day, Fong stood on the surface, the actual surface of Earth, for the first time in years. The air was still acrid, the sky still dark with the remnants of war. But as he watched, a shaft of genuine sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating a small patch of ground where, improbably, a single plant had taken root and begun to grow. Major Nu stood beside him, her face upturned to feel the warmth of that sunbeam. "Dr. Voss would call that a statistical anomaly," she remarked with a slight smile. "I call it a beginning," Fong replied. The light strengthened, pushing back the darkness inch by determined inch. And in that moment, Captain Lam Min Fong knew with absolute certainty that humanity would endure. They had faced their 0 hour and emerged on the other side, scarred but unbroken, ready to write the next chapter of their story among the stars. The plant at his feet reached toward the sun, its leaves unfurling in defiance of all probability. A small but perfect emblem of hope, rising from the ashes of near extinction.